Hi, I'm Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. As I prepare for my move from here in Spain back to the UK, I've been thinking a bit about the things that I wish that I had known before moving here, and I thought I could share some of those with you. Most of which are not the same old things that you find in most of these types of videos, such as the bureaucracy around moving to Spain. So if you want to see some of the ones that you might not see in other videos, keep watching. Number one is timings and expressing timings here. And now I'm not just talking about the fact that they have lunch at 2 o'clock and that they have dinner at 10 p.m. or the fact that shops will mostly close at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and reopen again at 5. I'm talking about how they actually express time. For example, I had a situation once when a friend of mine, we basically organised that we were going to meet up in the pub when she got back from work. But she wasn't entirely sure about what time she was going to finish work, so she said that she'd give me a call when she was leaving and that we'd organise it from there. So she phones me up at 9 p.m. and she says to me, okay, I'm just leaving work now, so I'll be in the pub in about half an hour. I then said, okay, cool, I'll see you soon. By the way, this whole conversation was in Spanish, not in English, but obviously I'm translating for you. So I said, okay, I'll see you soon. She then says to me, oh, okay, are we not going to the pub then? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I'll see you there in half an hour. I'll arrive at the same time as you. So she says, oh, okay, it's just you said I'll see you soon. Well, I'll see you now. And of course, I'll see you now is not something we'd ever say in English. Anyway, long story short, I mean, slightly shorter, it turns out that in Spanish, if you're going to see someone in imminent timing, you'd say, I'll see you now. If you say, I'll see you soon, that would imply that you're not going to see the person imminently or today, you're going to see someone potentially maybe within the next week or so. So by me saying to her, hasta pronto, which is I'll see you soon, she took it as I'm not actually coming to the pub tonight at all. Another example is another friend of mine said that we were going to see each other ahora después. Now, the word ahora means now, and the word después means later or after. So when's that? Is it now or is it later? Which is it? And even the word ahora, which means now, if you look up the word ahora in the dictionary, it will tell you that it means now. But the expression of now is completely different in Spain than it is in England, or in Spanish versus English. I'm not sure which. So I'm going to give us an example. If I was in England calling my English friends and I said, oh yeah, I'm going to the supermarket, I'm leaving, now. In their mind, I'm putting my coat on, putting my shoes on, heading towards the door. I'm about to actually leave the house and go. Whereas in Spanish, the word now actually, if I was to say exactly the same thing here in Spain, in Spanish to one of my Spanish friends, they would quite likely think oh yeah, okay, she might well be still sat on the sofa in her pajamas and she still needs to get off the sofa, turn the TV off, go and have a shower, then get ready and go to the supermarket. They wouldn't necessarily think that I'm leaving right this minute. To express in Spanish that I'm leaving right this minute, I would have to use the word ya, which it kind of also means, it means a multitude of things, but it kind of also means now, but not in the technical term of now. It's kind of I suppose, how we would use the word already. In English, you'd say oh, I'm already on my way. It's yeah, it's happening. It's already in process. So if I was to say to my Spanish friends in Spanish that I'm going to the supermarket now to try and express that I'm putting on my coat, leaving the house, going down, getting into the car, I would use the word ya, not the word ahora. The amount of times I've been trying to organise to meet people and I have eventually had to say, no, give me a time frame of when you will be there and when we are meeting. Because if I'm saying okay, yeah, we're going now, and I get there and they're not there for another half an hour, where have you been? You live 5 minutes down the road. Well, I told you I was going now, but they use the term ahora. Anyway, it's so complicated. So I prefer to put a specific time. If you are not yet fluent in not just Spanish, but also Spanish culture, specify the actual time you're meeting someone. Number 2 on my list is actually my name. It seems to be really hard for Spanish people to grasp my name. Obviously, you might not have this issue depending on what your name is. If it's Anna, for example, then you're not going to have any issues explaining the name Anna. But my name being Stephanie seemed impossible for them to grasp. Even those that have actually lived in England and speak fluent English, not all of them, but most of them still struggle with my name. When I meet new potential friends, the conversation usually goes as follows. Hola, me llamo María. ¿Cómo te llamas? Encantada, soy Steph. ¿Qué? Steph. Stephanie? Steph. Ah, Estefanía. Estefanía. No, la versión en inglés. Stephanie, como Stephanie, A. Deja la deja la A. Stephanie. Soy Steffi. Encantada. On the phone with an official was just as difficult. Hola, tengo un problema con mi cuenta. Mi nombre, Stephanie. S-T-E-P. Espera, E-S-T-E-P. No, sin E. S-T-E-P-H-A-N-I-E. Ok, señora Estefania, ¿con qué le puedo ayudar? Eventually, I actually gave up trying to explain my name 5,000 times, and now I just introduce myself as Estefi, which, in all honesty, I hate. Don't tell my friends that. If I had my time again, I would have probably introduced myself by my middle name, which is Lisa, because that's actually already a Spanish word. The word Lisa actually means mullet. No, I'm not talking about the weird, like late 80s, early 90s hairstyle that seems to be making a bizarre and unnecessary comeback in today's society. I'm talking about mullet, the type of fish. Lisa also is the feminine version of liso, which means flat or smooth. But because it's already a Spanish word, I know they'd have no issues pronouncing it. So if you're moving to Spain and you're planning on integrating and living in Spanish society, just consider your name. I'm not saying you should go and change your name. Obviously, it's just simply think about it. Think about how to introduce yourself for the first time. Following on with the issues with my name, it turns out that changing English names to Spanish names is actually quite a common thing here. And so that leads me to my number 3, which is that I wish I had known that they changed some famous English names to Spanish ones. This would have saved me from looking very dim last year when I suddenly had people coming up to me offering my condolences about the death of Isabel. I hate to admit this, but I had moments where I was thinking, Isabel, is she like some British lady in my town who died and they're assuming that all the British people know each other? I don't know. But anyway, I was obviously maintaining that I'm sorry, but I don't know who Isabel is, but I'm very sad that she's died, poor Isabel. And then people would start the conversation of, do I think it's right that Carlos is taking over and maybe Carlos should step aside and let Guillaume take over? And of course I'm thinking, I don't know what these people are talking about. I then watched the Spanish news, not the English news, and found that with the death of Queen Elizabeth, the captions on the bottom of the screen were explaining the death of Queen Isabel and her son, Prince Carlos, taking over as king, and his son, Guillaume, being the next in line to take over from Carlos. I was absolutely mind blown. They've renamed the royal family. Honestly, this really threw me. In fact, random side note here, but do you think that's okay? Because I was actually quite, I don't want to say insulted. I don't want to dress this up as more than it is, but I don't like this. The fact that official news outlets literally have Queen Isabel, and it's not her name. It's I just didn't like it. I really didn't like it. Let me know in the comments if that is weird for you too, or if you just think, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's fine. I'm interested to know where other people stand on this, because I don't know. It annoyed me, but anyway. Number 4 on my list is that bank holidays are not always on a Monday. In the UK, they are always on a Monday, with the exception of Good Friday, but in general, it tends to be a Monday. In Spain, it can be any day of the week. So the amount of times I've gone into a supermarket on a Wednesday only to find that it was closed is incredible. But they also, not only are they not always on a Monday, but they also can be different, varying on which community you live in. I live in the Valencian community. And also the different towns have days when they close, and they have kind of like bank holidays, or known here as red days. It can be really complex because in the news you might see like, oh yeah, bank holiday, da 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 da, or then some other place you might not see it, and then you still find that it's closed, or it might be your town's day, and then on your town celebration day they'll close it. And some of them the whole country celebrates except your community, and it can get a bit complicated. And the internet doesn't even necessarily help, because sometimes I look these things up on the internet and they still don't specify, because you've got to find it specific to where you live. Or I might be talking on the phone to a friend of mine who lives in a different area or a different town, and they're not sure. And sometimes even my Spanish friends who live in the same town as me aren't sure. But the best way I found to come up against this is if I go into my local supermarket, they'll have their monthly opening hours printed. I wish I had clocked that one sooner. It would have saved me many a time from going, oh no, I've got no food in the house and it's a bank holiday. Bugger. Who would have realised on a Thursday it would be shut? Yeah, although it works out quite well if you actually work here in Spain, because then you have a thing called a puente, which is the bridge. So if it's closed on Thursday, if you've got the bank holidays on a Thursday, then they might also close on the Friday, just because it's like, what's the point in going back to work for one day? So you'll have it closed from the Thursday right through to Sunday, which, bonus. Number 5 on my list is actually one that I wouldn't have been able to foresee without a bit of a crystal ball, because that is the flat that I bought. I actually, when I was home hunting here in Spain, my thoughts were that I was going to buy it as a holiday home, not to live in. So my priorities were very different. My priorities were that I would want somewhere that had a pool, somewhere with 2 bedrooms, somewhere with a balcony, and that was light, had lots of light, and was light in areas. Quite often you'll find homes in Spain that have very, very tiny windows and they're very dark. Those were my priorities for buying a place, and I achieved it because this is what I got. And I will be honest, I absolutely love my flat. However, there is one thing about it that I can't stand. And I found that living here these past 4 years, it has grown to really, really irritate me. And that's something that I would never have known before. And that is that because there is no view from my flat, so if I sit on my balcony, I'm literally just looking at my neighbour's balcony. There is no view whatsoever. I can't see a tree. I can't see outside. And given how beautiful Spain is, apologies if you can hear the dog, given how beautiful Spain is, that is really, really irritating. And the thing is, obviously, the budget that I had, I managed to, I can't just suck out an extra few grand to go, I want views as well as everything else. But there is things that I would have quite easily cut off my list to give me the view within the same budget. So for example, for me, a swimming pool. If I'm coming on holiday, I'm not going to be inside my home all the time, so views are not important. Going up to the pool is something that you want to do to relax when you're on holiday. However, living here, for me, the swimming pool is not as much of a priority as the view, because to be quite honest, when you're actually living in a place, you don't tend to use the pool quite as often. And then also, I have friends here, and most of my friends have got swimming pools. So if I really wanted to use a pool, I could go to my friend's house. 99% of the time if I'm going to the pool, I'll be with my friends anyway. The beach is only 15 minutes down the road. And so for the whole 2 days a year that I might think, oh, I'm going to go up and lay by my swimming pool by myself, it's not really worth it. I would have cut the swimming pool to have a view. So if you're thinking of moving to Spain and you're thinking of doing some property hunting, really think in advance of what you want that place to be and if it'll evolve with you. For me, my thinking was, it's a holiday home. I don't need a view because it's a holiday home. I'm going to be out all the time. Had I thought that at some point I would like to live in it, I would have changed it. But if that's something that you can foresee, if you're thinking holiday home for now that I will eventually retire into, then maybe that is something you might want to consider. Well, that is it for today's video, so thank you for joining me. However, before you go, I like to put a little funny story bonus thing on the end of my videos, so I am going to add one for you today, and that is going to be related to the situation with my name. You know when you go into like a coffee shop and they say to you like, oh, what's your name? And then you say, oh, Steffi. And then they say, oh, with an E? Obviously this is all translated. And I say, no, with an S. That conversation has happened so many times that one day I went into a coffee shop and for a change I decided to order a hot chocolate instead of a coffee. And the guy says to me, oh, with cream? And I said, no, with an S. So yeah, anyway, just a silly one. I mean, to be fair, that's like way much more funny if I said it in Spanish, but I don't know how many of you speak Spanish. Okay. Anyway, lovely to have you share this time with me. Hopefully I'll see you in next week's video, and for now, bye-bye. It's Brittany, bitch.